So, hey guys, we're back. It's Evan Goodman, and I'm the owner of this website. If you guys haven't watched the other three podcasts, in this podcast, we're going to be talking about global warming, just the same sort of gist of questions, just with a different guest. So, today we have a Professor William Sokoloff. Where do you teach?
I teach at the University of Texas, Rio Grande Valley.
Okay, so today we're going to be talking. I'm going to go through a list of questions, and he's going to be answering them. All right, so global warming, it's a big problem in the world, as you already know. And so, in your opinion, what is global warming? Like, is it based off climate change? Like what is it?
So I just want to say, first off, that I'm not an expert in this area. However, I'm a bit informed, and I do pay attention to current events and a little bit of the discussions taking place in academic circles pertaining to global warming. As I understand it, global warming is a slow and steady increase in temperatures that are leading to melting of polar ice caps and changes in weather and the environment that disproportionately impact poor and developing countries. However, there's also significant impact in what's termed the first world and in advanced industrial democracies, both in terms of the United States, Asia, and in Europe.
Yeah. So, what I'm taking is, global warming is real and it's a threat to not only like our ecosystems, but to human survival and our ability to be able to like continue living at this sort of like greatness that we've been thriving in for the especially since the industrial revolution. Um, so since global warming is this like huge thing, you said it's a slow process. So do you think that we as humans are increasing that global rate, like the warmth that the globe is heating at?
I do, and I think this is evident in um, fossil fuel consumption, carbon emissions, and unsustainable practices in terms of consumption.
Yeah, and I 100% agree with you on that because I think there's a study that shows that 97% of scientists, and this is from 2016, I believe, have come to the consensus that global warming is not only real, but it's man made. Which then I feel like comes to the issue that people aren't really believing they believe that the earth is heating up, but they think it's a natural cycle. So, like, do you know anything about, like, what the natural cycles of Earth look like heating up, cooling down because the ice ages and warm periods?
So um, I think the more important issue is, to what extent are humans taking responsibility for global warming and what is being done? If it's the case that the majority of the scientific community believes and argues and demonstrates scientifically that it's a thing, the question is not to um, try to evade responsibility by claiming it's cyclical, but to ask what can we do to reduce, minimize, and or reverse global warming.
Yeah, so you're a political science professor. So you have a pretty decent idea of how government runs and like what they can do. So do you to what extent do you think that they could actually prevent this from worsening and becoming to that irreversible point that these scientists are seeing?
So one of the challenges is in a political system where corporate money plays the most significant role in setting policy agendas. Unfortunately, it's not until something fundamentally changes in the ways in which political candidates win office, until there's a significant change in campaign finance reform, we're not going to see significant changes unless there is a sort of broad-based revolt of working people and people concerned about the environment, and they put a new president into office. The problem is the quantity of money that's already being pumped in is favors corporate fossil fuel interests at a disproportionate rate. So it's a somewhat challenging situation. I do see a groundswell emerging in terms of an environmental movement, and one can see this in the extinction activism currently taking place globally. But ultimately, environmental activism won't be enough in terms of changing the political agenda. This is going to have to be a coalition movement, possibly with the women's movement, the Me Too movement, Black Lives Matter, LGBTQ, environmentalism, and what's left of the labor union in the country. Until these groups come together, there's unlikely to be a change, especially in the United States. And unfortunately, Trump has divided the working class, and um, uh, not only does he deny climate change, but is um, actively promoting the very practices that contribute to it.
Yeah, so basically what I'm getting from this is that you not only think like the disunity of the political system, but also the disunity of like our social climate is really, if we don't fix that, then we're not going to get anywhere with these pushes for environmentalism.
There are a lot of interlocking problems. One, just to be very clear and simple, is money and politics. Until that connection is transformed, we're unlikely to see significant change unless there is a massive outcry amongst the majority of a population that exposes both the Democrats and the Republicans as two corporate backed parties, the environmental movement and the movement that's going to be for working people and for women and people of color and LGBTQ is going to be essentially the creation of a new political party in the United States. The Democrats and Republicans are bought and paid for by corporate money.
Which that's a really interesting perspective that like that I'm hearing this from, because normally you're hearing from environmentalists like, oh yeah, we have to do this and this, but not many people understand like what it will actually take to be able to like to move this far in this movement. And what I'm taking from this from you is that you think that these like giant oil businesses, as long as they're pumping money into our campaigns and like our political parties, then we won't really get anywhere with this movement. Is that sort of what you're saying?
Unfortunately, that's correct. But you have politicians that are willing to be bought off by these corporate interests.